What we're going to look at today is what I call the success. So I'm going to show you some of the successes I've had with email newsletters and why I love them so much. There's ones that I've actually very successful I haven't done, which I love following. There's also the style of newsletters we're going to go through, 3 very definitive styles. One of those might suit what you're thinking of doing. We're going to look at the subject matter, which is writing for your newsletter. And I've got a bit of a surprise for you on the writing side of it. And then finally, we're going to look at some of those systems where you can deliver it. The 4 systems I'm looking at today are Hubspot, Mailerlite, Mailchimp, and SendinBlue. One of those is one I used to use and grew out of. One of them is the one I'm using right now to deliver. So I'll show you some insiders on what those are. But the other 2 I've actually used as well with other clients and with other organizations. First up, this is brought to you by Business Station. I'm going to have to continually blow my nose, so excuse. That's better. Business Station and the Digital Solutions Program brought to you by the Australian government through the Australian Small Business Advisory Services. It's been going for 4 years, would you now believe? And this one comes to the end in March, at the end of March in 2023. So if you've been saving up those hours with which you're going to use, please use them up by then, because after that, there's a new program coming in and we don't know who's going to deliver that yet. Me, I'm Dante St. James. I work with Business Station through their digital solutions and also through their Workforce Australia programs in Darwin. But I work across the Northern Territory, Queensland, and Western Australia when it comes to the digital solutions program. So I am available for one-to-one consultations through digital solutions. Great to see Keita, who's one of the people who I've done some work with, and also, well, there's quite a few of you in here I've done some work with before. So thank you for coming on board. I really appreciate it. And we've got a big turnout for this one today. So thank you so much for taking some time out of your days to learn some more stuff about how to get a little bit more out of what you're doing with your newsletters. I also am a Meta certified lead trainer with Facebook Australia and New Zealand, or Meta Australia New Zealand as we call it now, and a delivery partner for the Be Connected Australian government program, which delivers a lot of training towards those older Australians and those from cultural and linguistically diverse backgrounds as well. So first up, the good news. I've actually had a lot of success in email newsletters, and I actually subscribe to tons of them. And I've got my reasons why. I'm a big fan of newsletters. I'm not going to lie about it. When things started to change, I guess, a bit on social media, where we sort of went away. Excuse me. If you're a big fan, I'm a big fan of newsletters, basically because I have a lot of areas of expertise I have to cover, and newsletters are one of those ways which I can get it. Just answering Donna here, reminds us what those credits are you mentioned. So that's where if you've joined the Digital Solutions Program in Queensland, Northern Territory, or Western Australia, you would have been for the $44 program, gives you access to 3 one-to-one like individual sessions where you can work with someone like myself or one of the many different advisors we've got across Australia. They're the ones that expire before the end of March. But the all these new workshops and all that, they're all completely unrelated. They continue on, and they'll be available on YouTube. And this one will be available on YouTube a little later too. So there's certain things that I subscribe to, which are around technology and new business. What I call non-Western news. I thought it was really important that because most of the news we receive has a very Western slant to it. It's always what's happening in America, what's happening in Europe, what's happening in Australia, New Zealand. But I want to look at what was happening in countries I'd never hear from. And I actually do subscribe to one of those. I'll show you soon. And then I really am into internet culture. I'm one of the very earliest adopters in Australia of internet culture. I sort of got on board with the back when we were doing IRC chats. If you don't know what that is, don't worry, I won't explain it to you. But there was also a precursor to the internet, which was called bulletin board systems. And you dial into them, and only 6 people could dial in at a time. You were limited to no more than 45 minutes, and you could boot it off, and that allowed someone else to get in. So it was like exchanging messages back and forth with people who you never knew, never really met. It could be anywhere in the world. And it was very like a walkie-talkie. You say something, you have to go away. They say something, they come back to you. So it's a precursor, I guess, of what email ended up being as well. So those are the things I've got a lot of interest in, and they're the things I work with. So I tend to subscribe to a lot of things that deliver that. One of them is Marketing Brew, which is a really interesting daily newsletter for me as a marketer and a digital marketer. I'm very much into that. Like there's something which there's stories in there and there's updates on those, which are absolutely necessary for what I do. Proximities is the one I was talking about that gives non-Western news. So today's one came out, I think, with news from Somalia, from Iran, and from another, I think, a Northern African nation. I can't remember which one, but in that it was actually delivering news I normally wouldn't get. And I make it a point of reading those each day just to sort of broaden my horizons a little bit. But I pay to be getting some newsletters. And it may seem strange that you can actually charge for newsletters through services like Substack. So if you want to write that one down, Substack, you can actually have people subscribe, that's a sub bit, to your newsletter if it's something which you feel you could make some money from. I'm working towards developing enough material to turn into a Substack so I can have a paid version of my my stuff as well. One I subscribe to is the premium version of Today in Digital Marketing. It comes out every single day with a really strong lineup of stuff that really like paints my industry with everything that's just happened. So I'll know about Facebook updates, Google updates, LinkedIn updates, all those updates coming through on a daily basis. Todd in the picture on the left, he scours the internet for all that stuff and puts it together each morning for me. So I'm really happy about that and pay for that. It's about $90 US a year. So it's not the cheapest thing, but for me, absolutely vital as an educator in online stuff. Garbage Day is one I pay for, which is all about having fun online. I love that idea. It's all about internet culture. And another one which is related to it is the content mines. So it's looking at the idea of content and what kind of content there is, like ChatGPT, which we're going to be looking at a little bit later on, AI, all sorts of stuff, which new viral messages are coming through, new trends, I guess, that are emerging that you may want to hop on as a marketer and as a content related creator. That's just what I do. You could have all sorts of other stuff. Like I also subscribe to Kmart and Target. So it's not like I subscribe just to things that feed my brain. I also subscribe to things that, steal money from my wallet as well. But these three I actually pay for. Garbage Day is about $99 US a year. And same with the content mines, I think it's about $79 US a year. So I do spend some money on that. But I have my own newsletter as well, and it's something I only started this year. It's this one, which is the Saturday Sprint. We've got 10,500 people at the moment are subscribed to this, which I'm just blown away by. Like I don't know what I've done that's so special that's managed to get this many people, but for me it's just been such a pleasure to build a community around this once a week Saturday newsletter that I send out. And what you do, you go to my website, you subscribe to it, and it delivers you a thing at 8 a.m. Australian Central Standard Time, so 8:30 in Queensland. Works at about about 10:30. I want to say 8 is not 9:30 in the daylight savings eastern states, and in Western Australia it'll come out well before you're awake in the morning. So it should be the first thing in your mailbox as you wake up. And it's a bit like this. It just goes, a topic each week that I look into, and I make sure that I make it under 4 minutes of reading. That's been told me to be a very big reason why people really enjoy it. They know how long it's going to be. Whilst I aim for 4 minutes, I really, really want to get to about 3 minutes, but I'm actually working really hard to try and get it to about 2 minutes. I want to make it so it's so quick for someone to read so they can get the information they need, get back out and get on with their day. And it's written in a very casual, but very easy to read format. And I'll cover a little bit about that later on. This one was started in January this year. I didn't have it. So it wasn't until actually, when did I start it? Well, let's just say this is the 32nd week. So this Saturday will be episode 32. So let's just say it's been less than a year, probably around about March, I think it really would have started. So I started with 150 email addresses. And now I've got 10,547 as of about 2 hours ago when I saw the numbers. Now, the open rate average, if you don't know what that is, just means how many people as a percentage are opening your emails. That's adjusted for privacy because, of course, our friends at Apple have blocked off a lot of the ability for us to see who's opening it on mobile phones. I was particularly on iPhones, but it's about 40%. So it varies. Sometimes I get 21%. It'd be just a really bad week. But the next week, it'll open up. I'll have nearly 62% of people people opening it up. It's crazy. So about 40% average. And the click rate, which is people who have clicked onto links in the newsletter, that's at 10%. Now you think, oh, that's a bit low, but it's actually well above the industry average, which is more like about 1 to 2%. So that to me is amazing. That's also the biggest driver of all my new business is through this newsletter. It's been quite an amazing thing. It might mean that they don't get it necessarily that week, but they will come back to me in say 2-3 weeks time when they've read something. I've also been delivering mini courses through this. So this is not just me doing a big show off thing. It's actually showing you what's possible. So the guide to writing social media, the content that you've been looking for, that's my mini course called 5 weeks, 5 types of content. It's about to be updated to become a 6-week. So anyone who's done this previously will get an update, which says, here's the 6th thing as a bonus. It's basically just delivered each, as soon as you subscribe to it, you immediately receive the first week. 7 days later, you receive the second. 7 days after that, you receive the third until you get all 5 of them. And so it's delivered over 5 weeks, and it's delivered as an email to your inbox, not a PDF, not a link to a system, nothing like that. And the beauty of this one is that when it ends, it ends. I don't then put you into my newsletter. I don't then put you into marketing news, anything like that. What I will do though, is if the content gets updated, I will send it through to you. So just to make sure you've got the latest information, that's the only reason you'll get contacted. You won't be marketed to. So that's some of the ways I do it. So this is kind of what it looks like, those emails. They come through and say, week 1, what can I teach people? Which is the beginning of that first lesson. And then there's the other one is for my Get Noticed, Get Booked online mini course, which that's week number 4 of that one as well. So I've got some graphics in there, I've got lots of information, and there's even homework in there. So email newsletters don't have to just be news. In fact, I don't even want to call it newsletter. I'd rather call it email subscription. Email subscription feels like it's a bit more, tied in with what we do today, because let's face it, what kind of news do most of us have, especially small businesses and solopreneurs? Like most of the people in here, the news could be, I don't know, it could be a real estate agent or a buyer's agent who has some updated statistics that are coming through from the REIQ or from the REIWA or REINT or one of those that allows you to sort of see some more information. But ultimately, most of what you're going to do isn't going to be really that newsworthy or enough to jump through to people. So in my course sort of thing, I had no courses. I only started this on the 7th of August. And then I wrote 3 weeks worth in one weekend and went, okay, here we go. And now in December, I've got 900 plus completions have happened on there. And I just wasn't ready to go into a full-blown Kajabi course system or anything like that. So I used email. So this is another way that you can use email to deliver something more than just, just news. You can deliver courses through it even. You're not getting feedback from those courses, but people will get that and I'll get the next one. And most importantly is when people give you a bit of an email back and say, hey, thank you so much for that course. I really appreciate it. And, out of the 900 completions, probably about 100 of those people email me later and thank me for the course. And that's really sweet and really good. But it also generates more leads for my other newsletter, the one with the 10,500 and so. So people usually, once they're doing this course, they will go and sign up for the regular newsletter to get some more news everywhere or more education every week. What it's done, and I've counted this up in my customer relationship management system, is that this particular courses have generated 47 new leads, which then generated 21 new paid customers. Some of those are just one customer who will book me for a digital solution center or a session, or there might be someone who I go, hey, sign up here and you'll be able to get 3 hours with me. Or it's one of my private ones, which I go out at $180 an hour to be able to get. So these things can be quite lucrative for you if you're just delivering more than just a newsletter, because a newsletter, like I said, for small businesses, we don't have a lot to be newsworthy about. Which brings me then to the different styles of newsletter there are. Just take a quick sip of water. Now, the styles of newsletter vary from promotional to educational to corporate. We're going to take a little tiny closer look at that. So the promotional ones, you'll recognize these because they're usually about new products or special offers or workshops, events, sales reminders, especially those ones where you bought something and then they say, hey, now you bought this, you might like this. That's what a promotional email tends to be like. So it's ones that are sent from, I got one from Target earlier today. I think one came out from Coles or Woolies or one of those as well. So it's giving me some specials that are coming up for the week, because Thursday is when all the specials come in. So it's like we used to get the catalogs in the mail. Now we're getting these emails as well. That's one version of an email newsletter. That's very promotional. It's there for a very specific reason, to teach you to do something else. Now, the downside of promotional emails is that they have amongst the lowest open rates of all kinds of email. They're also the ones that people will unsubscribe from the easiest and the most commonly. Like they'll join up and they go, oh, no, this is too much. It's sending me too much. And then people just unsubscribe. It's also the kind of email that tends to land straight in people's spam filters and junk mail folders, because it's very promotional in nature. And things like Google and Microsoft through Outlook and Google through Gmail have very good AI that can sort of scan what's coming in and pick up patterns of whether it's very scammy or spammy or something that you don't usually like to open. If you don't usually like to open something, say for instance, you've subscribed to a newsletter that gets sent to you every month and you haven't opened it for about 6 months, it's just going to immediately put it to spam, because it knows that you just don't care about it, and it's just going to say, well, you're not there, we'll just completely hide it from you. You won't even see it, which is why you might sign up for something and then months later you go, oh, I thought I signed up for this newsletter, and you did, but it's just being spammed out. So you go looking for it and go, oh, there it is in my junk mail. I might need to unjunk that. And what that tells Google or Outlook or Microsoft is what you now want to do with that stuff. But these guys require huge lists to make them work really well. I'm at the level of list now at about 10,000, where I can really start to maybe monetize my list and put ads and promotions in it. But I don't really want to do that, because that's not why people will subscribe to me. I've had certainly some affiliate links to products that I actually use and recommend that I'll link through to there. And that's a way that you can monetize what you're doing with your email. So for instance, there's 4 different pieces of software that I use almost daily, and I recommend them because I use them and I love them. So I'm an affiliate for those. So I'll use that as a way to repay some of the time and the effort that I'm doing. Now, mind you, the little amount of affiliate that you get from that, so far I think I'm making about $150 a month out of it. So it does not pay for my time at all. But that's not the point. I'm not doing it for that reason. I'm not doing this as a promotional item. It's as a relationship builder. So this is an example of Kmart. Okay, this one is the most recent one that I got. It's like for $10 for the Marvel Universe Atlas. So it's a book you can buy from Kmart for kids that are nerdy and like that sort of stuff from the Marvel cinematic and comic universe. It's interesting, I guess. It just starts off straight away with what it is, and it gets straight into it. But it's got links to other places which take you to their website. So that's very much a promotional email. It's a special offer, a special price, and they've obviously got tons of them because they're selling them for pretty much half price. So that this is something that's very highly promotional. Educational emails, on the other hand, they can be delivered like a series, like my mini courses that I did. So they are an example of an educational series, or it could be a tip of the week. I subscribe to probably about 20 of these, which are people who write very short email once a week that tells me something about the industry, something about the tools that I use, or something that I may need to know or find useful to know, that's just delivered to me in a very short format. And I go, that's cool. Now, those kind of tips of the week, you think, well, wouldn't you deliver that through social media? The problem with social media is, if I was to deliver that through Facebook, who's going to see it? Like, even the people who follow me, less than 1% of people who follow me are ever going to see anything I post as a business page. LinkedIn obviously is much better for that because it's less busy in the feed, and I can definitely get a far greater reach in LinkedIn than I can on Facebook. Or it might be on something like a tip of the week that's delivered via video on TikTok, which could get to a lot more people. But when you get it through an email newsletter, through an actual email address, it's so much more intent there. Someone has deliberately gone and subscribed to that email. So you know that they're far more likely to get some use, or to get some, to look at you as an expert, if you like, because you deliver that kind of information to them for free. How-to guides are also very well delivered through email, through educational emails, and updates to previous learning. Like I was telling you before, the part 6 of my 5-part series is going to drop in the next week or so, where I'm going to let everybody know, oh, there's a part 6 now. There's now a 6th way, and I need to update the entire learning curriculum for that to make sure it's in place. So that's an educational one. So an example would be, they would have the highest open rates because you usually are deliberately looking for these. You're deliberately subscribing to them. You are quite often opening them. They're often the least unsubscribed ones. For over 10,500 people, I've had less than 100 unsubscribes from that list, which is, you think, wow, that's pretty amazing. But it is because, people who are subscribed to my newsletter deliberately subscribed. I didn't, chuck them in. I didn't buy a list from someone and just start sending it out. They're people who I've had contact with before, or who have just gone, yes, I want to get your stuff. They're also the least likely to go into spam because their open rates are usually higher across the network. People tend to read them. They tend to be more interacted with, and they're also suitable for small lists. So you don't have to have 10,000, 50,000, 100,000 people on your list. You can have 50 and they're still going to get through and it's still going to be relevant because those 50 people, I tell you now, I'd rather have 50 people who are likely to become my customers than 10,500 people who are never going to become my customers. That's the difference between, I guess, you're going for the numbers and going for the quality of what your list of email addresses is going to be. Just a little prompt too. If you have any questions along the way, please pop them in the chat window or the Q&A. I'm happy to answer those along the way. It's not like I've got this is recording or anything. This is live, except if you're watching on this on YouTube later on. This is definitely not live, but you can pop down some comments in the comments section on YouTube below if that's the case. This is an example of an educational one that I get every week. It's actually what I based mine off. This is their formula. It's a guy called Justin Welsh, and it's called the Saturday Solopreneur. And it's all about starting your own business, taking control of your own life, building your own business basically from scratch. And Justin's done a very, very good job of that. He used to be a high-flying corporate executive in business development, making hundreds of thousands of dollars. Now he makes about $5.5 million a year by selling courses and stuff online. One of those guys. You've seen all those guys lying up and telling you, this is how you do it. Just get my course and I'll teach you how to do your course. And he's not quite that slick about it. He just likes to, he's very, very to the point and very, very personable. And I really like his approach. There's others who do that. There's some incredible women of color in Africa, actually, who are doing very similar work. And I've got none of them coming to mind at the moment. I follow a bunch of them on LinkedIn who are just do this so well because they're selling to their people. They're selling to people who are just like them. By selling, I mean, they're just producing stuff that's of use to those people who they consider part of their community. So it's just not like guys that do this. There's definitely a lot of women that are doing it. In fact, I'd say these days in the educational space, there's probably more women doing this than there are men, and they're doing a bloody good job of it too. Pardon the French. So in the corporate kind of email, then that's kind of like what's happening at our company. It's the quarterly results, or stuff like I've never heard from Medibank before until the cybersecurity leak happened. All I ever would get was like, oh, your payment didn't go through because your credit card is expired. All of a sudden, every week I'm hearing from Medibank through AHM, their subsidiary, telling me, oh, here's the update on your personal information. Here's the update. Here's why we're not paying the ransom. So suddenly I was hearing from them a lot. It's very factual. It's very, very corporate. Obviously, very all vetted by the lawyers. It could be news. This is more the newsletter. All right. So this is when you think of newsletters, this is probably what you think of an email newsletter, which is probably why you're thinking, why would I want to do this newsletter thing? It's such an old, drab topic. Does it still actually benefit anyone anymore? Doesn't everyone just spam out all the email? Well, yes and no. Some do. This kind of stuff is probably some of the most spammed out stuff. It's got the lowest amount of signups because I don't know. I'm only getting those emails from Medibank because I'm a customer of theirs. I'm not getting them because there's anything special that I want to hear from them, apart from stuff that covers my account. They're very highly unsubscribed as well. What you find is that the corporates get a little bit too out of control when the marketing department or a chief executive officer says, oh, I want to put out this very important message about this new product we're delivering. And we're all sitting there going, I don't care, and hit the unsubscribe button. It's also highly likely to end up in spam boxes because of the low uptake of what these are, despite them having hundreds of thousands, possibly millions of people on their lists. They just get ignored so much and spammed out so much. They're very likely on Gmail particularly to just skip your inbox altogether and end up in spam. Or if you've got Gmail set up in a particular way, it goes in your promotional box. So if it's not in the promotional box, it's not in your email box, it's going to be in the spam for sure. Larger businesses do this way better than smaller businesses because there's not really that much that happens with this. This is an example of a very boring, very dull newsletter. So I've kind of redacted out who this is and where they're from. But what I'll give you the basics of is that this is basically the words from the director of the company. There's nothing there that's of any benefit or any sort of action point to anyone who's probably getting this. It's a classical newsletter, a corporate newsletter. It's basically talking about yourself. It's not really talking about anyone else but yourself, who your partners are, who your stakeholders are, what we're doing. I'm lucky enough to be in North Queensland. I'm living in far North Queensland. I'm responding. So it's us, we, I. It's very, very self-absorbed kind of stuff. But that's what a corporate newsletter is. It's about that company. So it tends to have that very self-absorbed process to it. But the educational stuff is more about, it's all about them. It's all about you. It's all about the people who are receiving it, less about who's writing it. So it's a very different mindset that comes out from those kinds of different newsletters. Nothing wrong with this newsletter. It's completely fine as a corporate newsletter, but it doesn't exactly put me in a position where I want to go, wow, I really want to read this every month. Now we'll go on to the subject matter. This is where we're going to have a look at what your style is of so you're going to pick a style of a newsletter. You'll choose what it is you want to write and the tone of writing that you want to do. So when we look at the style, we're obviously talking about these three styles we just talked about: the promotional, the educational, and the corporate. So one of those would suit you. I'd say it's probably unlikely that many people on this call will be looking at the corporate. You're more so looking at promotional things for your business, so you can promote what's coming in your business, or educational stuff. I tend to lean more towards educational for everyone in small business because you've got so few people on your list as a small business and so few things that you actually do in your small business that it's very unlikely you'll have a lot of news that'd be corporate or promotional. You're not going to have a lot of specials. You're not really going to have a lot of stuff going on. It'll just be more of a case of, please buy my stuff, please buy my stuff, please buy my stuff. It becomes almost pleading to customers on that list to buy stuff. And that will lead to people just, completely ignoring you or spamming you out. The educational email, on the other hand, like I said before, has a lot more chance of staying in the inbox, a lot more chance of being read, and the links in the email are far more likely to get clicked on because what you're delivering is something that people are already interested in, rather than people who may have bought one thing from you once and you're just been spamming them for the last 3 years to try and get them to buy a second thing from you. This educational stuff is like they learn something from you once and you continue to be of use, bring them more education and more stuff for them to learn along the way. So it's a lot more useful, a lot more likely to be engaged with than a promotional email or a corporate email. So I like to concentrate a lot on the educational email. When I say educational, doesn't mean you have to be a teacher. You don't have to be a course person or a life coach or anything like that. You can be someone who sells a product. You can be a shop front that sells products. You can be a service that sells time. Any of those things through education. They're basically just talking about what your area of expertise is. So if you're a spare parts interpreter, then your area of expertise is spare parts and where to get rare spare parts, right? But if you're let's say a financial consultant or an accountant, then you have tons of stuff you can teach people about. It's just often, because people are a bit nervous about money and don't really want to, they don't chase a lot of educational money, then they might just go, well, you're going to make that information and education very lively and very attractive for them. And there's lots of techniques for that. Won't go quite into that. Otherwise, I'll have to give everybody examples of their own industry. So the promotional email has that kind of feel where it's this week's special, or have you joined our club, or don't miss out on this new thing. Here's something new that we've got to release to you. Or it might be that we miss you. We haven't seen you at our website for 6 months. We'd love to introduce you to this special $10 discount code. Or here's a new opportunity from those who you bought from before. So it's very, again, promotional. Just very promotional. It's about getting someone to do the next thing. It's about getting them to feel as excited as you are in the way you're presenting it. That's your tone. It's very exciting. It's very positive, perky, witty sometimes, depending on the personality of your brand. It can be very optimistic, generally has to be. Pessimism doesn't really have a place in sales. And it always has some kind of call to action. What do I do next? Where do I go next? So that's a promotional email, if that's the one you're trying to do. I've got some examples of how these write in a second. educational. It's a tip or a trick or a hack or an idea. It's something you've learned that you want to share with your subscribers. It's a new technology that you may have come across that you want to share with subscribers, or a new technique, a new way of doing things, or even a how to use Instagram to grow your business, how to increase your email list, things like that. Educational stuff that's designed for people to learn something on an ongoing basis from you, whether it's every week or every month or every day even. You know, the ones that I subscribe to, Marketing Brew and this Today in Digital Marketing, are both daily, and I get information out of those every single day. They're very useful to me. They are generally written in very short sentences. That's the thing with educational stuff. Short sentences, short paragraphs. When I say short sentences, I mean under 20 words per sentence. When I say short paragraphs, I say under 3 sentences for paragraph. So, you know, let's think of it as 20 words per sentence, 3 sentences per paragraph. Then you have a break and you move on. You've got to have some white space between it. So you've got some breath space or thinking space for people as they're reading. Because what we do when we see a great big giant block of text, like in a book, we sort of start to yawn and get distracted. Oh yeah. It made everyone else yawn. Sorry about that. But that's what it does to us. It causes us to be easily distracted, not focused on what we're meant to be learning, and we just lose all of our attention. It goes somewhere else. So you want to be able to break those things up to make it easier to not just take it in or read it, but also to retain it as well. You need image breaks and graphic breaks. Big blocks of text are our biggest enemy. Very clear language. I know you want to probably be really clever and use alliteration like I've used in my sections, you know, the style, the subject matter, the systems. I just went with SSS. I like to be clever too, but often what we really need to be is clear more than anything else. And these kind of things should also have a next step. So the next step for me is always in my weekly newsletter. Here's a workshop you can do with me. Here's a one-to-one that you can book with me for 15 minutes for free. Here's a recording on YouTube of a previous workshop I've done. So I'm always giving someone somewhere else to go after they've finished this, because we don't want to finish up here. You want to build and continue that relationship. And that's part of what I call the hub and spoke model. I've got a hub of big information, like it could be a blog, it could be a video, it could be my podcast, it could be anything that's quite long format that then gets pointed to from lots of these little social posts, which are over on the spokes around the wheel. So those little social things always point to something bigger, so I can increase the relationship with someone. They can have a second piece of me, if you like, and then they can also learn something more that shows my expertise even more, so they get to trust me, not just know me, but they can hopefully get a chance to like me and finally trust me as well. And that's what you're after with these educational emails, is to build that trust level so that someone may want to work with you. The corporate one is more about directors and managers updates. It's about departmental updates, results, highlights, cybersecurity, like we had in the case of if you're with Optus, you would have got emails galore, and Medibank, same thing. And there's been I think Telstra had a recent cybersecurity incident as well. So it's all over the place. That's usually when they reach out to you when something's going wrong and the lawyers are going, we need to tell people. It's very factual. Very much about the highlights. It's you don't have the whole story in the email. It's often saying, click here for more information. So the email itself is very short, very sharp, just the facts. It might be very formally written. It's always clear, very clear language that's written in a little bit of legalese. So if someone's saying sorry to you, that you always feel like they're never really saying sorry, but they're just kind of indicating that we want to say sorry and be seen as saying sorry, but we don't want to say sorry in case you sue us. And it doesn't generally seek a response. They actually don't want to hear from you. If you've got any questions, if you've got any questions, get in touch with our customer care team. It's sort of hidden away somewhere in the bottom where you're not likely to see it. They don't generally want to respond to this. And if I saw, like, for instance, that corporate email I saw before, it's not asking me to respond to anything. It's got no call to action to do anything. It's just like, here's all the wonderful things we're doing. Thanks. See you next month. It's like a drop of information, and then they move on. They don't expect to have a conversation with you. So examples of the writing of each. So I'm going to get you to read these off the screen. Sorry for the small writing if you're on a small screen, but this one's a promotional one. So hello, lovely ladies. We're so excited to share the news that our annual stock take clearance is here, and it's better than ever. This is your chance to score amazing deals on all your favorite swimwear and beachwear at prices you won't find anywhere else. Whether you're looking for a stylish new bikini, a cute cover-up, or some trendy accessories, we've got you covered. Our clearance event only happens once a year, so don't miss out on your chance to save big on all your favorite swimwear brands. Be sure to act fast because sizes and styles are limited and are sure to sell out quickly. Happy shopping. Oh, P.S. Don't forget to tell your friends and family about our clearance event so they can save big on swimwear too. So it's really perky, very, very bright, very cheerful, very optimistic. And it's also like, it's a little cheeky, just a little, hello, lovely ladies, just a little bit cheeky and familiar as well. So it knows exactly who its audience is. So that's an example of a promotional email that's quite well written. Next one will be, I need to blow my nose in a moment, to the educational one. So this one is this one's like, well, I'll read it out. If you want to build something meaningful, you need to do uncomfortable stuff. It doesn't matter if you're a creator, solopreneur, or entrepreneur, you're in for a bumpy ride. That's all there is to it. Therein lies a problem. Most people, me included, aren't good at pushing out of our comfort zones. Our comfort zone is where we feel completely in control and safe from the unknown. It's where routine and predictable blossom, land of the bland. We stay tucked in our comfort zone because it can be hell on the other side. The other side of comfort is fear, and we know how fear poisons the mind. What if I fail? What if people ridicule me? What if someone points me out specifically as awful? Can you imagine the target of people's mockery, scorn, and taunts? Welcome to the internet of the creator. So this is a very educational thing. It's teaching you about the realities of becoming a creator, or about like a solopreneur, someone who's going to put themselves out there on the internet. Excuse me. So that you can see that there's a lot of personality to it. It's like things like land of the bland. I love that. That's an awesome statement. But it's written very much in that person's style. The corporate one seems a little bit more robotic. Dear valued shareholders, I'm pleased to introduce the latest edition in our corporate newsletter, which provides an overview of the company's performance and share price movements over the past month. At this company, we're committed to keeping our shareholders informed about the state of the company and its financial health. In this newsletter, you'll find key financial metrics and highlights of our performance, as well as an update on the company's share price and any significant developments that have taken place over the last month. We hope this information will be valuable to you as you continue to invest in our company. Thanks for your continued support and trust in our company. So that's a very typical director's opening to a shareholder oriented newsletter, right? But did you notice anything strange in those? Just think about it. The three different ones there, anything just didn't seem quite right. There's a very big difference between the promotional and corporate and the educational. And the reason was, and this is the reason why I really like educational email styles, is because the promotional and corporate ones were written by AI. I didn't write those. The educational one was written by a guy called Justin Welsh, who I mentioned earlier. So AI actually wrote the promotional and corporate. This is because promotional and corporate emails are incredibly simple and easy to write. AI can really rocket at those. But an educational one, they're not so good at that. Yeah, sure, they can pull out the steps and the facts and the figures and all that sort of thing. But, well, it wouldn't come up with something like land of the bland. It wouldn't come up with, all our stuff. The kind of language that Justin uses is very colloquial and still very clear, but very much him. It's the way he talks, the way he communicates. Whereas promotional stuff, even the hello, lovely ladies. Now, I want to introduce you to how that happened. It's a thing called ChatGPT. ChatGPT, you may have heard a bit about it in the news. It's basically a chat program where you can have a conversation with an AI. So the conversation with AI I had today was, write me a director's introduction to an email newsletter from a large corporation containing highlights of company performance and share price movements in a formal and factual tone. And there is the unchanged email that I used on that presentation slide before. That's what it wrote for me. The next one was, write me an introduction to an email newsletter for a swimwear retailer who is promoting their annual stock take clearance in an excited tone that would appeal to a young female customer. Hence, hello, lovely ladies. So that is exactly how it wrote it. So that's the big difference between those promotional emails can be written by AI. You can just use, I use other AI writing tools all the time. This is a particularly new one that is free at the moment. I'll bring up that address too if you want to just take a screenshot of that there to get get an idea of where you're going to, just quickly screenshot it or write it down, openai.com/blog/chat GPT, sorry, as a way to start that one off. But that I could do one right now if we've got a bit of time for a little bit of a practice. So I'll say, write me an email apologizing for a recent data breach at my company in a serious and apologetic tone, aimed to apologize but not attract legal repercussions. Let's see what it does. So, oops, that had an error. Sorry, that's not what it usually does. I think it's because it logged me out. I'll log back in again. We'll try again. So write me an email apologizing for a recent data breach at my company without leaving us open to legal repercussions. So, dear valued customers, we're writing sincerely and apologize for the recent data breach at our company. We take the security of personal information very seriously and are deeply troubled by this incident. We are currently investigating the matter and taking steps to prevent any breaches. So you start to see that those kind of stock emails are things that are written by lawyers a lot. Suddenly we've got AI that writes these things really well as well. Now, if I was trying to do how to express a kinder tone on social media, so let's try something like that, it doesn't tend to come across as much personality, but I can ask it to be perky. Write a perky LinkedIn post about the 3 most important things to remember when using social media for business. This post is aimed at small businesses and should be written casually. So this is the kind of stuff that's happening now, why things aren't quite what they seem on the internet anymore. Hey, fellow small business owners, we all know social media is a powerful tool for growing our businesses and connecting with customers, but it can be overwhelming and confusing. So here are my top 3 tips for using social media effectively for your business. Be authentic was number 1. Be consistent. It's always the same things. Be authentic, be consistent. And let me guess, the third one's going to be strategic about and make a plan. Absolutely. That's usually what's said. That's very, very common answers to it. But that's essentially writing a post for you on social media. So you can imagine then that you could write an email on this. Now, what I see in there is absolutely no personality. That all it really comes is share your story, your personality, engage your audience in a real authentic way. That's not the way that I, as a human who's writing this, would actually make it. But it's actually very good, as Keita's now saying, that it's great for people who are not fluent at writing, not very particularly good. So these kind of tools, Write Sonic is another one that I use. Writer, R-Y-T-E-R. And I'm trying to think, there's another one on AppSumo the other day, APPSUMO, and I can't remember the name of it, but it's only $29 a lifetime, and it will do a lot of AI writing for you as well. Very good for newsletters if you're just trying to get something promotional together, but it's definitely not great when it comes to personality. There's just no personality in that post at all, but it's still a post that you could use. It's still something you can put in a newsletter. So it will allow you to experience a bit more. So now that we've looked at, some of that stuff, that's very cool. And we could probably get caught up on all that for a long time. What I want to show you is some of the systems that are used to be able to handle all this. And, there's the ones that, like Mailchimp, that's very, very common. It's also, in my opinion, the worst. SendinBlue, which is the one I'm currently using, Hubspot, which I've used before, but I kind of grew out of because it was going to get way too expensive at the level I've got now, and Mailerlite, which is one that I actually worked with a client yesterday with, and she absolutely loved it and really wants to work with it. Really, really nice, simple interface. It could be then Active Campaigns, another one, Constant Contact, Zoho Mail. There's tons of them, like literally hundreds of these tools. So I'm just going to show you very quickly a few of them. I'm going back there into HubSpot. So this is my old HubSpot, like that I used back until September, so I don't use it anymore. What I would do is I'd have a list of people. So I've got a list of all my emails, all over in the left. What I want to do is create an email up here. Might make the screen a bit larger so you can see it. I want to create a regular email. in that regular email, I'll choose a layout that I want to use. So it's got some paid versions of it because this was paid there for a moment, but I'll just take a basic one. You select that and then lay out my email in the way I want to lay it out. So maybe if I take that that email from we've got here and then copy it into HubSpot. So I want to replace all that stuff that's in there. Here's today's small business tip. And then I could just basically have something would go out. This makes it really easy for you to do like a really quick, simple email that you want to send out to people. It's got just very little in it. Every day I go out with a little bit something. I can put my logo up there so I can replace it with the logo I've got in here somewhere. Let's see, I've got one hidden away. There you go. I've got my signature or my fake signature. There we go. And then that's an email ready to go out to my people. It's got all my subscription and information that needs to, that unsubscribe, all that stuff's there. I can break that up more if I wanted to say, no, I want to have some other things in there other than just that. I want an image. You've got like a builder over here on the left. So I can then chuck in an image there, find an image that's already on here. One of my favorite ads in history. Not Happy Jan. Those of us of a certain age will know exactly what that refers to. And then that's a newsletter, essentially. That's a really quick tip newsletter. So if I want to do a daily newsletter, I could essentially just do something like that. And you can build a list doing that. And then in it, what you could do is have like something at the bottom, which is saying, that PS, if you'd like to sign up for my, I've got a new course, which allows you to learn how to start up your own newsletter. Click here to go and explore that. And so as I go to review and send that, I've got to have, the kind of recipients I'm going to have. So I'll get my settings, make sure I've got it like where it's coming from, what the subject's going to be. So it's going to be today's tip, social media. And then that today's tip for social media, I know where it's going to go. So next it's going to be send or schedule it, send it to my group. So there's a group I had here in that one. So 929 people in that list, which won't look at those. And then what I'll do is say, okay, what I'm going to do is review it. I can even send myself a test, or I can just send it and off it goes. So that will then send, I can preview what it's going to look like. And there we go. That's a preview what it's going to look like on a desktop and what it's going to look like on a mobile phone. So for me, I'm happy with that. I can then share that away and off it goes. So that's using it in something like HubSpot after you've built a list of people. The building of a list is probably a whole other webinar that I could go into, which is teaching you the techniques of actually getting more people into your list. And then we've got the Mailerlite. Now Mailerlite, a bit more, it's just a simple interface. What I wanted to create, they call them campaigns. So subscribers is your list. So I just start up this fresh account. So I don't actually, I've got a few people in here I can use. Then I've got, forms. The forms are like embedded forms. So you create a form and you give it maybe website. This is where people are going to sign in from your website to get onto your newsletter. Save and continue that. So I'm not going into depth with these. So these is really just a really quick overview for you. Let's just say I've got all these people. I'm going to select them all and then go save and continue. And I'm going to send this email to all those people. Well, what's going to happen? They're going to be into those particular lists. Those people who subscribe are going to go on those lists. What I probably wouldn't do is select all of them. I'd sign up for one of them. And this is the basic form. I can change this. I can change the background, make it a different color, maybe an image in the background or something like that. Let's just pick up a nice image, maybe a bit of a Subaru car. There you go. So this could be like a pager of a form. But then what I can do once I've got it, if I go next, now I've built this form, I can then get code to put it into the back of my website, whether it's Squarespace, Wix, Google Sites, WordPress, any of those. You'll be able to pick it up and just go, okay, here's the thing, here's the thing I'm going to do. What I want to do is get that and go down a bit further. Yes, that's exactly what I want to do. I've got that. Got my analytics, got my automation. Excuse me for sniffling. So I'm starting to get worse and worse as the day gets longer. And I can create workflows that lead on that. So someone sort of subscribes for it. I can set a workflow automation that says, okay, send them an email and then send them another email 7 days later, that kind of thing. But with those forms, I can get my form. So I've created that form. And in my list, as these forms are embeddable, here's the code. So it gets me the code. Where's my code? Double opt-in is off. Oh, it's because I haven't yet had this account approved for use. So once I get that approved to use, it gives me the code that I can get. So I'm not actually doing this as a live one. This is only a pretend one. So the same kind of thing. You then go to build your campaign. Under campaigns, I'm going to create a campaign, which is an email. In there, I'm going to say this is today's email. Subject is daily update, social media. Typing under pressure, I tell you, I don't recommend it. Go down next to my content. Now I'll build my actual email. So the same thing as what you had in HubSpot. We're now going to use a builder, drag and drop editor, to build this email. There's templates they've already got that you can use. I tend to build my own because the templates tend to be a little bit over the top and too promotional, and they're too much like they're trying to be Kmart. So it gives me a basic layout that I can go, well, I want to change that to my logo. So you just go in there, upload something else, or enter the URL for something. If I go change, and then pick out something, let's just say it's October Business Month from 2018. This is how long ago it was I used to use this. And it puts my new logo in there. I can put my information in there, change this image for another image, and update any of these things. I'll take them out. So I don't really want that list. I don't really want that heading. So I'll take it out, and I might want to insert something else. So look for what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a body of text. So I'm looking for this body of text. I'm going to put that there, and I've got new text that I can write over the top of. So much the same thing. When I'm done with that, it goes through to then begin the process of sending it out to that list that I want. SendinBlue is, I'm just going to continue with the free plan on this one. So free plan allows you up to 20,000 emails a month, but no limits on the amount of people that you can have in your list. So I'm going to create, say, a new campaign. I don't have a list yet, so I can't really send. So okay, today's email is a fresh installation. I wouldn't take you into mine because that'd be a privacy problem. So I can say it's from me. So that's all right. That can be from me. It gives me a little thing. And my recipients are going to be a list, my first list. So they put a couple of sample ones in there for me. So that's going to be my first list it's going to go to. My subject, let's add a subject, gives me a little preview there. So it can be today's tip, social media, and then a little preview text, which will appear when you see it in the list of emails. So we can say, hi there, and we can put their name, choose the attribute. We're going to have their first name, insert, hi, their first name. Are you ready to learn? So it gives a little bit of another prompt there. They can see what the email's about. And much the same way as I did in the other two systems, I can pick out a template and just go for it. So I might go, okay, this one's nice and easy. Let's just use that template. It then delivers me a builder, just like the others. And I start replacing my logo with other things, replace this image, set it all up, and then it's ready to then give you a preview and do the same thing. So really, these systems all work essentially the same. Mailchimp, much the same as well. I'm logged in this one. Over on the left, it's going to be your campaigns. So your email templates, you go all campaigns, create a campaign. It's the same kind of language. It's a regular email. So I'm going to go and design it. So the regular email I'm going to design. Thankfully, Mailchimp have simplified their system a lot. It used to be much, much more complicated. So I'm going to take the new builder. A new builder is like a drag and drop builder like all the others. So I just take what I need, change that logo to the logo I want, change that image, change the heading, just reload it all, however you want it to look. And the same thing happens. It says, who do you want to send it to? This list? Great. And then it'll send it out, and you can schedule that to go out at a certain time. Like I schedule mine at 8 a.m. Northern Territory time every Saturday morning. Doesn't matter, even if it's Christmas Eve, it's still going to go out.